Welcome to the first fashion talk between Madame Fashion and Liz Steiger. Bonjour from Vienna.
And hello from Bangkok.
My name is Ivana. I'm a fashion and art historian and owner of the platform madamefashion.com.
And my name is Liz. I'm also a fellow fashion art historian. I write about it on thepinklookbook.com, and I also am a fashion designer with my label Pelagona. And the two of us thought that yesterday's Met Gala that happened in New York is actually a great opportunity to come together and just discuss our common passion about all things fashion and its history and the design. And you may all know the Met Gala and the media frenzy. Your feeds were probably full with all the crazy outfits, but actually the Met Gala is much more than that. It's actually the opening of an exhibition of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's Costume Institute. And the reason that we actually have a Met Gala is that it is a fundraiser for this institute.
The Met Gala usually stands at the very beginning of the annually most important exhibition, and this year it is an exhibition dedicated to Karl Lagerfeld. It is called Karl, A Line of Beauty, and the theme or the dress code of yesterday's evening was in honor of Karl. Okay, let's dive into the Met Gala outfits. Let's dive into it by giving it a very quick shot. So one outfit, one face, or one sentence. I'll start. Glenn Close.
Unfortunately, not what I expected on Glenn Close. I think the gray was not really good for her, unfortunately. Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman was the most expected dress one could expect at the Met Gala, which is okay. Lily Collins.
Oh my God, don't get me going. I'm sorry.
Just get over with it.
if I was saying it from a European perspective, when I watched, that's a very long sentence, when I watched the interview on Vogue.com, two Americans pretending to be in Paris while being in New York, and that dress was the same. I want to be something, and I really want to make everyone proud, and that's why I just put Karl's name on my train. That was it.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you have a last one for me?
Yes, I do. Penelope Cruz.
Oh, lovely vintage choice, but nothing more, I fear.
Yeah.
One last for you, Elle Fanning.
You really try to turn me into the mean one here.
No. It is what it is.
I do have to say, I saw the picture. The picture looked nice, the original picture that she was referencing to, but neither Karl nor Vivienne Westwood would appreciate that gown or whatever it was. I found it hideous.
Okay. So this year's theme in honor of Karl, of course, is a nod to the exhibition, but at the same time, it is a focus on Karl as the personality that we all know. Now, quoting Karl as a persona is somehow the most obvious thing of all, but at the same time, I think it's a really difficult task. Now, the question is, which one did succeed? Liz, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a very difficult task. And the problem that I saw is that a lot of the interpretations were a bit too literal. It was too direct. One example that I really liked was Kristen Stewart, because it was a direct reference to the cruise collection in 2016. I think it was a suit. And it was a bit of a surprise element in it. It was not something that people would have expected on that red carpet. Maybe we would have expected it from her and her style, but I really liked it. The only minor criticism that I had is it was a nice idea. It was just the coming to life could have been a bit more refined, or maybe with a different suit, it would have even worked even better. So that was my, let's say, one interpretation that I really liked. What about you?
Well, I have an example that actually touches a similar topic, because the suit that Kristen Stewart wore was actually coming from a Chanel men's collection. And I thought it very interesting that she chose so. And talking about gender bending fashion, I really liked what Jordan Roth actually was wearing this time. Jordan Roth is not such a overall famous person. He's a theater producer and somebody is very interesting as a personality, I think. And he wore this black dress that was totally simple but really beautiful. It was perfectly fitted, and the reference to Karl was this huge fan he had like in front of him, and this looked like very elegant but at the same time very obvious, like an obvious nod to Karl himself. I liked it. It was a very elegant reference, I think. Now, talking about the best ones, we also, of course, have to question ourselves. Was there a worst one? What do you say, Liz?
Again, it's as difficult or even more difficult to pick just one, because there were quite a few examples, to be honest, unfortunately. But one that was just too literal was on the red carpet, Jeremy Pope. It was this long train with Karl's face, the profile from the side that we all know. And the thing is, like, I think I have two issues with it. One is this very blunt interpretation, and the other one is just we have seen too many long trains on that red carpet. We all think of Rihanna and Guopei in 2015, and it is a moment, and the media love it, and it looks great on Instagram, but it was just, yeah, very, very blunt, and not, like, it was not refined at all. Like, it's something that we can forget and move on.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the next topic, if I may. Now, of course, with a huge career that Karl Lagerfeld had, like spanning what, more than 50 years, we do have a lot of vintage fashion that could have been chosen. And I mean, this is everything I dream of course. And everybody was there and thinking which dresses are going to be chosen, which outfits are going to be there. Now, my question is, which vintage did you like best? Because there were some, of course.
Yeah, it was, there were quite a few items, but I think probably if we have to nail down one vintage item that spoke Karl, it was the 1992 Claudia Schiffer dress that Dua Lipa was wearing. Because it's just an iconic dress. Even in our preparation, I remember we were already talking about which ones could be picked. Personally, I would have loved to see way more vintage, way more other designs, but I think she did overall quite well for the topic. So I think that was quite a good one. What about you? What do you think?
Absolutely agree. I also think that the dress matched her perfectly somehow, because she has that princess-like image too. So that's a very good one. What I also liked a lot was the funny, really like relaxed feeling that Giselle, of course, had with her dress. She was referencing her own Chanel, seemingly favorite Chanel moment with the dress and look that she had for that photo shoot in 2004, I think. And I loved like her energy, because I mean, it's Giselle, and Giselle has always a good energy. And I thought that she brought a lot of fun to the whole thing, which was quite needed. I think
Yeah.
A lot of people took it very seriously, and I think the vibe of Giselle was a very nice one. Yeah. I might add also that Penelope Cruz moment. Mm-hmm. I do love that she chooses old vintage, like sometimes really like old dresses. I remember that one Oscar red carpet moment where she had that pale blue Dior gown of the 50s, I think. So that's a very nice thing. And she did something similar. She chose that dress from 1988 Chanel, so very early Karl Lagerfeld at Chanel. And I like theoretically, I like that idea. Practically, I thought that it was a little too modest, as it is then often what she does actually. And it lacked a little bit that grand entrance gala effect, I think. Yeah, so that's that, I would say. So Liz, tell me, is there something else we need to talk about? We talked about Karl the persona. We talked about vintage, of course. What is the third main topic? What would you say?
I think we should talk, because it's actually about the exhibition, about his design language. I think with Karl Lagerfeld, we always talk about more the cult-like figure that he created and the design. So I think we should also look into the design aesthetics. So what would you say was the example that you think represented his aesthetics best?
Well, I actually thought that Michelle Yeoh was very nice because I liked that game of black and white. I liked the volume, the overall volume actually of the dress, and it was somehow very Karlish, like aesthetically Karl, but it was not too much of a caricature, I thought. And this is a task that is not quite easy with his aesthetic. And I thought that with her example, we had a beautiful one. Actually there. But this is, of course, I mean, it's not only Karl. A lot of times it's Chanel because it's a lot of black and white. And that is, of course, very similar between Coco and Karl. Of course, Karl Lagerfeld had like 3 or 4 other brand careers that are not as talked about. I'm thinking of Chloe. Did you see some nice Chloe stuff, Liz? What did you say?
Yeah, I was really waiting for this because I already had that feeling. Of course, it will be a lot of Chanel. It will be a lot of like literal Chanel, the pearls, the black and white, which we did see. But there were some Chloe elements. There was also some Fendi also, but the ones that I would like to mention is one design, a Chloe design, which has kind of a violin in front. Olivia Wilde was wearing that. It's a reference of an original from Chloe. And Margaret Jung, the editor of Vogue, also, she wore the original. So, and I actually liked seeing this, that in this like whole river of Chanel, and Karl, the persona, you saw this also because his career at these other fashion houses was also very, very long. And also his contribution in terms of design should not be forgotten. So I think all these brands owe him a lot, and I really enjoyed seeing those 2 examples. So
absolutely.
Who was the worst?
Well, the worst, as you said, there is a lot of examples at this red carpet. I think the worst, quoting the Lagerfeld aesthetic, was Cardi B. I mean, she's one of them, but certainly one of the worst ones. I'm sorry to say this, but it's just the way I feel, and I think that we feel. Cardi B's outfit was just like, I don't know. It's like imagining a children's cake for a children's party themed Lagerfeld. It was like the camellia, the black and white, the collar. It was
bag,
just
the bag
really,
in the train thing.
Yeah, the bag, and yeah, it was just too much. And at the same time, it's not ironical at all, in my opinion. And that's a very difficult thing. So it's neither well done or well composed, nor ironical. So it's something in between, and that for me makes it an anti-example of yesterday's evening, I think. Now, we have seen a lot of not so good ones or okay ones. Is there one thing or one outfit that you would say that coined it all?
It took some time and it took some digging, because actually it's not an outfit that I immediately saw while watching the live stream and then immediately doing all the research. It was then when I went onto other fashion pages and celebrity pages, I discovered Alia Bhatt in a design that I think was very well done. It was another bridal moment, so it fit into this Dua Lipa Giselle Bündchen. And it was a Prabal Gurung design, which was very intricately embroidered. And what I liked about this, it looked very elegant, and she was wearing a glove, the typical glove that Karl Lagerfeld used to wear when he went out, when he was drawing. But it didn't look like a costume that you would put on during Halloween. Sorry for that thing. It somehow matched, and it looked really elegant. So looking back, if I had to pick one outfit, I would say that she incorporated the design aesthetics and also his personality very well with this choice.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And at this point, I also have to point out the thing you said at the very beginning. I mean, you have those like on Vogue magazine grid or Vogue runway grid or Met Museum grid, you have those 15 outfits maybe that were like all in spotlight, and you really have to dig to find much better ones first. Mm-hmm. And secondly, just like really well-known people actually that were not covered, and they don't just make it into these top 10. And although they were actually very much among the best ones. Totally agree on that, yeah.
And also that it doesn't have to be a design by himself, because I expected actually way more Chanel by him or Chloe by him. I was actually positively surprised how many contemporary designers attempted to do that, because I also think as a designer that's not easy to interpret somebody else and then somebody who had such a big impact in the fashion industry. So also seeing that dress by a young designer, his interpretation I've actually found quite well done.
Mm-hmm. And at this moment, I think we both need to add like the Versace Versace dress of Anne Hathaway. I mean, we all love that Liz Hurley dress, and we all love that 90s Versace, but we do not want to see it in white tweed, don't we?
And with camellias on the breasts. The thing is,
absolutely,
as we've talked multiple times, you know that I have this kind of difficult relationship also with Donatella Versace, because I loved all the Gianni designs, and I think she was amazing as a marketing brain. And this dress just showed like it was something. It was one of the best sellers. The Liz Hurley dress turned into something on such a beautiful woman, where I really asked myself, how did this come together?
Why? Absolutely.
Okay, so now we've discussed the details. What would be our takeaway after watching the Met Gala, after diving into all the media frenzy? I do have to say, watching it for almost 3 hours on the live stream very early in the morning, there were almost no ups and downs. It felt like just watching a small creek flowing along. I don't even, to be honest, I can't even tell you if there was a highlight or a lowest point at this time, which I find a bit sad, because it should have been a tribute to somebody, which could have been very exciting if we think about Karl Lagerfeld and his design. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I also, like, when preparing for our talk, I was actually trying to see what was the best and the worst. And among the worst ones, we had a lot of choice, I think, among the worst ones. But at the same time, I'm not sure if there is like many best examples. To me, somehow, with this one exception of Alia Bhatt, it was actually a best of okay. And that's I think exactly also your feeling when you say it's like flowing and it's no highlights, no lowlights. And the question is, why is this happening? Because the Met Gala is always a very exciting evening. It's of course an evening where a lot of people do dare a lot. Daring a lot is always a good recipe for success, but also failure, of course. And usually it's not that boring. Let's say it as it is. What do you think?
I was also surprised, also given the fact that it's one of the bigger events. Okay, there was a Met Gala last year, but since COVID, we all crave for these, like, oh, what can we watch? And especially with a polarizing topic like Karl Lagerfeld, which was in the news already before, I thought there would be something, but a reason may have been that some people were missing. As we said in our preparation, Lady Gaga and Karl Lagerfeld would have been amazing. Like, who could have been better at interpreting it? I actually haven't found yet why she didn't come. I expected, or I hoped, that maybe somebody like Claudia Schiffer would come, who was such a muse to him. She also just posted on socials she won't be there. Even Blake Lively, who you can like or not like with her interpretations of the topics each year. For me, she was a part of the Met Gala always. I always waited for her outfit. She was also missing. So maybe because some of these big participants were not there, that could have been one reason.
Yeah. I think the overall impression that I also had last year already they have this topic, and the topic is most of the times is interpreted in a very obvious, very superficial manner. And I mean, there's a lot of people criticizing Karl Lagerfeld for his persona and the things he said, and like there is a lot of polarization around him and his public figure. And in the end, I was watching it and thinking, all of the people that belong to the generation criticizing him did the same thing. They actually quoted the persona Lagerfeld instead of actually focusing on his design legacy. A lot of people criticize him and say, but his legacy is huge. They admit it, but at this very occasion where they could have paid tribute to the legacy, they actually didn't do it. It stayed very much on a surface. The quotes were very blunt, very crude in a lot of cases. And well, yeah, maybe we expect a little too much of the gala. So the two of us, I think, maybe it's all about the click and all about the likes on Instagram. And probably, I mean, I think of the cat that Choupette that Jared Leto was. Maybe it's all about this and not so much, unfortunately, about the design legacy behind it.
Yeah, I agree. It could be maybe also people are also a bit tired of the event because it has reached a point. It's like with the Oscars, not that many people watch anymore. But I do actually think that the exhibition is something that I personally would like to see. Not because of the Met Gala. I think actually the exhibition, and we are going back to why do we have the Met Gala? Actually, it should be an opening of an exhibition. And I think a lot of the participants didn't really think too much about the exhibition. When you listen to the interviews, what are they most excited about is, oh, the red carpet. And I'm the nerd here. I was thinking like, no, the exhibition, everything that I saw, the behind the scenes is so beautiful. Because I do think that the curators and everybody at the Met and that the Costume Institute put so much thought into every exhibition they do. So I'm sure that this deserves a visit, even if you don't like Lagerfeld.
Yeah, if you mention this, I immediately think of the interview between Ashley Graham and Hugh Grant at the Oscars, where she's like all about the Vanity Fair that is happening there, and he was talking about Vanity Fair, like the novel and everything like behind it. And it's similar to this, isn't it? I mean, you listen to it and you say, well, can we just talk about the thing itself and not so much like about what is happening at this very moment on this red carpet that is not even red anymore? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah. And just to close our conversation, do you think Karl would have appreciated it?
Well, it begins with the fact that Lagerfeld was always a person that was stating, like really, really fiercely stating that he's not about the past, he's about the present and the future, that he despises any kind of fashion exhibition because he said fashion is all about wearing it and not so much as the museum pieces. And so I think theoretically he would have been totally against the whole thing, like the whole thing. At the same time, I mean, he did create his own persona. He did, like with his own brand Lagerfeld, which was given to other designers, and he was mostly just like being himself as part of the brand. And at this point, I think he might have liked it because he was who he was. He loved to be in the spotlight, of course. But I mean, taking a look at some of these, I think he would have despised it.
Didn't you
honestly
have the feeling it was like a funeral? I know that the aesthetics, this black and white, which is the color for funerals in like either white or black in many countries, it really had this feel to me. It didn't feel happy. And also I found it interesting, in an interview Carla Bruni said that Karl himself never talked about death. It was a topic he avoided, and he actually said nobody dies, they just go into another room. And she said something really nice. She said maybe he's just walked into another room and now he's back for this event. So maybe, I hope that this was achieved, that it was really a tribute, an homage à Karl. We will see. We can't judge because we were not invited for some reason. But
well,
I really
let us
enjoyed
give us some time on that one. We'll work on that one.
Yes, and I really enjoyed talking with you, also preparing this whole thing.
Here.
And to hopefully many more interesting discussions. And thank you all.
Absolutely. And at this point, we also have to point at our next talk, because of course, we're not only going to talk about the Met Gala, so the opening evening of the exhibition, but we are going to talk about the exhibition itself. So give us some time and we'll come back together with a talk on how Karl and his aesthetic legacy was paid tribute at the current Met Gala, not the Met Gala, the Met exhibition, which actually just is starting this week and going, I think, until the middle of July this year.
Thank you all for listening.
Thanks a lot. Bisous, salut, bye bye.
See you soon.